Kirk Math. Hello and welcome to 6.3 Comparing Ratio Tables, which is the part 2 of our 6.3 lessons. So in our last lesson, we learned all about ratio tables and kind of using them to solve problems, but today we're going to use them even more. We're going to find equivalent ratios and solve lots of problems by comparing ratio tables. So, all of the questions in this lesson revolve around this idea that several students are participating in a reading challenge at West Middle School. They earn points for the number of books they read, improving their reading speed, and for reading to younger students. As the grades levels increase, the point value changes. We're going to complete each of these little tasks by applying our understanding of ratios and ratio tables. So our first task is to analyze the tables that tell us how much points each grade gets, because every grade's getting different points for a book, which is a little weird, but that's what we're going to do. So in order to figure this out, we're going to kind of analyze what's going on in these tables first. So the first question says, what do you notice that is different about these ratio tables? Now, obviously, each of them is representing the points for different grades, but you may have also noticed that each of these tables do not have consistent skip count, like the grades between each other are not consistent. So I can't compare a 6th grader and a 7th grader and an 8th grader because there are not 3 sections of books that are the same. Here you have skip counting by 3s. Here you have skip counting by 2s, and here you have skip counting by 2s, but the 7th graders are only odd number of books, and the 8th graders are only even number of books. Okay, so we would basically say that they are not the same. So it's really hard to compare. Now, how are the values in these books columns displayed? Well, we kind of just talked about that, right? We are skip counting by 3s in 6th grade. We're increasing by 2 in 7th grade with odd numbers. And we're increasing by 2 in 8th grade, but with even numbers. And then the last thing we're going to do is says write a ratio to compare the number of books read to the number of points earned for each grade level. So that is really trying to find a unit rate. Because I want to figure out how many books for points, not books. I want to know how many points for one book. Okay, and the way that we're going to do that, because you should remember that unit rate means divide, is we are going to divide 68 by 2, 117 by 3, and 72 by 2. Now, you can honestly divide any of these ratios in these ratio tables because we know that they are consistent based upon the context that's given. But I'm just going to start with the easiest ones here, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is 68 divided by 2, and that is going to become 34. So 6th graders are 34 points per book. 7th graders is 117 divided by 3. So this is going to go in 3 times, 9, 10, 11, 7, 8, 9. So that's another 3. So this is 33 points per book. And then the last one are 8th graders, and we've got 72 divided by 2. So that's going to be 3. 2 times 3 is 6. And then that's going to be 6, which is 12. So this is 36 points. Per book. Oops, and I just realized I made a mistake in my long division for 7th grade. I put a 3, but 3 times 3 is not 27. 9 times 3 is 37. So this should be 39 points. And now we can compare. We know that the 7th graders get the most points, the 8th graders get the second most points, and the 6th graders get the least points per book in this competition. All right. Task number 2 is saying that 2 additional grade levels have decided to participate, but their results were incomplete. Each grade level used a constant ratio. This is important because if they did not use a constant ratio, then we would have no idea what ratio these people were using. But because they're constant, we're going to know that every time I increase by 1, it should be the same on both books. Every time I increase a book by 1, my point value should also increase the same. Now, it may not be filled in all the way for my table, but I know that it's consistent. So if I know that basically these point systems should be the same ratio as this point system, and that's going to help me find my answers and fill in these blanks. Okay, so we've got 5th graders and 9th graders that are joining us. Okay, and we are going to go ahead and figure out what point values they have. So the easiest way to do this, because I'm missing information, would be to find that unit rate, okay? So I'm going to divide, and I'm going to find unit rate. I'm going to divide 168 by 4, and that's going to get me 42. And now I know that for every book, one book makes 42 points in 5th grade. That will help me because now I can just multiply by my multiplier here, by my unit rate, to figure out how many points for 3 books. So if it's 42 points for 1 book, then it's going to be 126 points for 3 books, because that's 42 times 3. For 10, same thing. It's going to be 420 points. Then, because I have points but no book, I'm going to divide by 42 to figure out, well, how many books was that? So I'm going to do 294 divided by 42. And if I do that division, I get 7. So now I have my table filled in for my 5th graders. Now over here, I'm going to do the same thing for my 9th graders. I'm going to divide to find unit rate. Uh, 70 divided by 2 is 35. So we know that 9th graders are going to be 35 points per book. So we're going to times 5 by 35 and 14 by 35 to find the answer. We'll divide by 35 to get our answer here. So 5 times 35 is 175. Just double check that really quick. 35 times 5. Yep. And then 14 times 35. We've got 20, 5, 6, 7, 20. No, 12. Wow. 3, 4. 490. And then for the division, 1. Oh, look, that's another. So it's 11. And there we go. So I'm using unit rate to divide and then multiply, or divide to find my answers. All right, our next task has us look at students in each grade level that earn points for the number of minutes they spend reading aloud to younger students. So we need to figure out the ratio of number of minutes read to number of points earned for each grade. So same thing. Oh, excuse me. Minutes earned to points earned. So we're going to divide 10 by 2, which is 5. We're going to divide 15 by 3, which is 5. So again, I'm just dividing this first set of ratio. And then 5 by 25, or 25 by 5, which is 5. So ironically, they are all the same. 5 points per minute. Our process in finding this was we divided because we wanted to find unit rate. Okay. All right, our last problem here is kind of an interesting one. We're going to read the scenarios below and we're going to fill in the table. So Edgar reads 78 books in 13 months. We have to fill in the table. Right here is that ratio, 13 and 78. So I know that this is going to be months, this side, and this is going to be books, or number of books. So if it's 78 and by 78 books for 13 months, I need to figure out how much for 1 month. So I would do that by dividing 78 by 13. So I ended up figuring out that 13 goes into 78 6 times. Now I can use that to figure out my answer. So to get from 6 to 24, I had to times 6 by 4. So I'm going to do the same thing here to get the answer. To get from 6 to 42, I have to times by 7. So I'm going to do the same thing here. 110 times 6 is going to get me my answer here. Okay, the next one says that in 6 minutes, Jocelyn reads 15 pages. So this must be minutes, and this must be pages. Okay, well, it doesn't tell me what I need to do here, so we can make this 12 and 30. 45 would be the next one. Let's see, 45 plus 15 is 60, so this would be another 6. 18 plus 6 is 24. And then 60 plus 75 is another 15. So this is increasingly going by 15s, and then that means this is going by 6s. Okay. See if you can fill in the last two tables here, C and D. I'm going to pause the video and then come back and see if you filled them in correctly. All right, so for Woo and their mystery books and sci-fi books, I had 5, 10, 20 on the left for mystery, and then 16 on the right for sci-fi. For the library shelves, for nonfiction, we had 14 and 21 for our blanks, and for fiction, we had 20 and 100. And that is just working with ratio tables. So join us next time. We'll work on ratio application.